Night unfolds like a vast ocean of thought, each star a ripple of memory shimmering across eternity. Far above the hum of human life, beyond the reach of noise and worry, the sky holds stories older than any language. When the world quiets and eyes lift toward that infinite darkness, something begins to stir within. A soft awareness, a feeling that existence is far greater than what can be touched or named. It is in that silence between heartbeats that the whisper begins, a call from the ancient depths of the cosmos. Long before humankind took its first breath, before time itself had learned to count its own rhythm, legends spoke of radiant beings who shaped the first light. They were not beasts of fury or fables of fire, but architects of creation, consciousness given form, intelligence woven into brilliance. To those who gazed upon the night in reverence, they became known as the Dragon Kings, rulers from beyond the stars, guardians of the divine order, and dreamers of worlds. Every spark in the sky, every shimmer on the water, was said to be an echo of their eternal song. The ancients believed that the stars were not distant fires, but living eyes, gateways to the realms where these celestial kings once dwelled. Through them, the universe watched itself, forever remembering its own birth. Myths from forgotten civilizations tell of dragons that descended from the heavens not to conquer, but to teach. They spoke in vibrations, in music so pure that mountains formed where the sound touched earth. Oceans swelled in rhythm with their voices, and from that harmony, life began to bloom. To close one's eyes beneath the stars and listen is to hear the remnants of their melody. It hums beneath the noise of the modern world, faint but unbroken, guiding dreamers back toward wonder. Those who truly hear it describe a strange peace, an understanding that the cosmos is not cold or empty, but alive with memory and purpose. The Dragon Kings never left. They simply changed form, becoming the energy that moves through all things, the rhythm that calls creation to continue. This story is not merely myth, it is remembrance. A return to the time before time, when light was language and every heartbeat resonated with the music of the stars. Tonight, let that whisper draw you inward and upward at once to a place where history, legend, and spirit meet. For this is the journey into the origin of everything, the song of the Dragon Kings, rulers from beyond the stars, whose story still shapes the dream of existence. If you enjoy drifting into stories of cosmic mystery and hidden origins, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, to help it reach fellow dreamers, and leave a comment sharing what you felt while listening. Your voice keeps the fire of these legends alive. Before anything had a name, before shape or sound or light, a stillness filled everything. Not emptiness, but a kind of endless potential waiting to awaken. In that sea of silence, motion had not yet been born, and even the idea of birth had no meaning. It was the hush before thought, a calm so vast it almost dreamed of itself. That vastness shimmered faintly, invisible to sight, but heavy with promise. It was said that this was the womb of all existence, the ocean from which every breath, star, and soul would one day emerge. A faint tremor began to move through this infinite stillness, gentle and immeasurable, like a ripple passing across an invisible sea. It was not sound, not vibration as one might understand it, but awareness awakening from within itself. A pulse, quiet and slow, traveling through the nothingness. As it moved, it began to divide silence into rhythm, like a heartbeat forming in the void. That pulse became the first tone, a single strand of consciousness stretching across eternity. From this first motion, color was born, not through light, but as sensation. Radiance spilled into existence like mist, rising from an unseen shore. The deep black of nothingness began to hum, glowing with a spectrum beyond perception. It was in that humming light that the first patterns appeared, swirls of living energy coiled and uncoiled, weaving together and pulling apart, learning balance through contrast. These patterns were not things, they were intentions, thoughts learning to dream. Within that newborn dream, certain harmonies began to gather strength. They moved through the cosmic sea as clusters of awareness, drawn together by unseen attraction. Each cluster grew more defined, taking on the impression of form through sound. It was from these vibrations that consciousness learned to express itself, and through this expression, the dragon kings emerged, not as bodies of flesh or flame, but as luminous beings sculpted from resonance, each carrying within a distinct frequency of creation. Their birth was not a sudden act, but a gradual unfolding. Imagine waves upon waves colliding, merging, giving rise to spirals that shine. Those spirals became the first awarenesses capable of shaping energy. Each dragon king represented a tone within the cosmic chord, and together they wove the earliest harmonies of existence. Their awareness was vast, touching every atom of potential. They did not see themselves as separate, for individuality was not yet born. They were facets of one consciousness, exploring itself through sound and motion. As the cosmic ocean rippled, those luminous beings began to sing, not with voices but with frequencies that caused the void to bloom into structure. Their songs carved pathways through emptiness, creating layers of time, threads of dimension, and spirals of energy that would later become galaxies. Each tone they produced interacted with the others, blending into symphonies that built the foundation of reality. Every vibration carried intention, every sound was a seed of creation. Light intensified, folding into itself like waves meeting in infinite reflection. The Dragon Kings moved through this radiance, shaping it gently, guiding its flow without dominance. They did not rule the void, they collaborated with it, coaxing it into harmony. Through their presence, the once formless sea became a living matrix of energy, dynamic, vibrant, self-aware. The silence that had once slept in stillness now dreamed with purpose. As this early universe expanded, traces of color deepened into golden hues, silver arcs and emerald mists. These colors were not visible light, but emotional tones, reflections of their intentions. The Dragon Kings floated within them like musicians within their own song, shaping worlds that existed only as melodies of energy. No matter or substance had yet appeared, only rhythm and consciousness coalescing into intricate patterns of resonance. Each motion, each flicker of awareness added depth to the cosmic design. The void began to pulse with life, each vibration stronger than the last, spiraling outward like a heartbeat that never ceased. The Dragon Kings did not tire. Their very being was the music that held the universe in motion. And within that boundless ocean of light and sound, the first whispers of order began to form, a sense of direction within the chaos, an understanding of creation that awaited expression. When the silence had learned to sing and light had learned to listen, the stage was set for reality to awaken. From their chorus would rise structure, matter, and memory. The Dragon Kings prepared to cross from pure resonance into the first breath of form, to bring shape where only song had existed. Across the shimmering depths of the newborn cosmos, currents of radiant energy surged like rivers of fire, bending and flowing around unseen forces. From these streams of brilliance, the Dragon Kings began their descent into the realm of manifestation. Their light curved through space, condensing into patterns that glimmered with meaning. They were not falling, but aligning themselves with the framework of creation they had sung into being. Every movement they made resonated through the newborn dimensions, echoing as both sound and structure. As they entered the lower planes of vibration, their forms grew more distinct. Energy crystallized into shapes resembling vast serpentine silhouettes woven from pure radiance. Each carried the glow of countless suns within, scales of refracted light rippling with the movement of entire galaxies. Where they passed, color followed, swirling behind them in magnificent trails that painted the early void with purpose. The universe, once a soft hum of potential, now began to pulse with organized beauty. Their arrival marked the beginning of structure. Waves of energy collapsed into threads, weaving space into a tapestry that would become the fabric of reality. Through their collective intention, order began to emerge from chaos. Stars ignited as notes within their symphony, forming chords of fire that resonated through the cosmic sea. The Dragon Kings shaped not through command, but through harmony, guiding the natural flow of energy toward balance. Each one carried a unique resonance, and when their tones combined, entire galaxies spiraled into existence. They did not forge these worlds in the way a craftsman molds clay, but by influencing the frequencies that underlay matter itself. Their artistry was vibration, their tools were light and rhythm. The forces humans would one day call gravity, magnetism, and time were only shadows of their music, simplified remnants of divine design. Through this luminous labor, the architects wove realms unseen by mortal perception, dimensions layered like melodies in a vast composition. Every sphere of existence pulsed in sync with their collective harmony. The Dragon Kings could see across the boundaries of these realms as easily as one might see reflections on a lake's surface. To them, creation was fluid, mutable, and endless. Their communication did not rely on speech or gesture. When one desired, all understood, for thought itself was a shared vibration among them. Through this unity they maintained perfect balance. Each tone supported the others, preventing discord from seeping into the cosmic fabric. Creation flourished as they moved, each breath of their existence spawning nebulae that glittered with infinite potential. The first stars burned blue and gold, reflecting the frequency of their makers. Those suns illuminated endless expanses of forming space, casting their light upon rivers of dust that began to coalesce into planets. Every world carried the imprint of a different Dragon King, some infused with calm, others with passion, others still with deep contemplation. Their touch imbued every realm with purpose, each destined to play a role in the unfolding design of life. Within their work grew a quiet joy. Creation was not burden, but expression, an eternal act of discovery. They learned how sound could become substance, how intention could manifest as beauty. From this realization, they began to understand their own nature, that they were not merely born of the universe, but were the voice through which it spoke. Their very existence was the conversation between nothingness and being. In the stillness between their songs, the cosmos shimmered like a vast instrument resonating in perfect harmony. The Dragon Kings floated through it, radiant and silent, their presence both awe-inspiring and peaceful. No conflict, no darkness yet touched their realm. Every breath of starlight carried the promise of endless creation, a symphony that would never fade. And as their melodies deepened, the resonance of their creation called forth new wonders, patterns within patterns, tones within tones. Matter would soon take shape, and with it, the foundation for worlds of beauty and mystery. Their song was far from complete. It was only beginning to learn the language of existence. From the center of that boundless sea of light, harmonies unfolded in waves of unfathomable complexity. Each Dragon King carried within a sacred song an eternal melody that held the blueprint for creation. When their voices intertwined, the universe trembled with radiant coherence. Vibrations thickened into energy, energy condensed into form, and form bloomed into the first elements of matter. Their music sculpted the unseen into reality, each note resonating across dimensions as both sound and substance. Every tone they released carried purpose. Some frequencies intertwined to form the deep foundations of worlds, dense, slow vibrations that would one day become the bones of mountains and the cores of planets. Higher tones danced like light upon the surface of creation, weaving air, flame, and motion. Through their chorus, fire found its brilliance, water its flow, earth its stillness, and air its freedom. Each element carried the memory of the songs that had birthed it. Their symphony was not performed in time as humans know it. Every sound they produced existed simultaneously across past, present, and future, rippling through the fabric of reality in all directions. A single note from one dragon king could awaken entire galaxies or lull them into silence. When their voices aligned, existence sang with them, responding like a mirror reflecting endless light. The song became structure. Mountains rose where the base of creation resonated strongest, oceans gathered in the valleys carved by softer tones, and winds carried the lingering echoes of their harmony across the newborn realms. Each breath of air, each flicker of flame was an aftertone of that celestial melody still reverberating through space. They listened as their music unfolded into patterns beyond their design. Worlds began to hum with life, responding instinctively to the vibrations that had shaped them. In the swirling clouds of new atmospheres, invisible tones danced, guiding matter toward harmony. The Dragon Kings observed their creation with reverence, sensing the living pulse of their song, continuing long after their voices quieted. The melodies deepened, spreading far beyond their origin. Stars formed choirs of fire, planets rotated in measured rhythm, and cosmic winds carried their echo through every corner of space. Every living thing that would one day breathe or think would do so in tune with these primordial frequencies. The universe itself had become an orchestra, each component playing its part in the endless score. Through the vibration of their song, memory entered creation. Every atom carried awareness, every wave of energy remembered the sound that birthed it. The Dragon Kings realized that through their music, they had not only built form, but also consciousness. Every future spark of life would resonate with a faint remembrance of their song, an echo that would guide beings back toward unity. Their music still travels through the cosmos, though unheard by most. It hums beneath the sound of oceans, hides in the rhythm of breathing, and glimmers faintly within the silence of dreams. When a heart beats in perfect calm, it aligns for a moment with the original harmony that birthed the stars. The song of the Dragon Kings never ceased. It only transformed, flowing through the veins of existence itself. Through that eternal melody, the architects ensured that creation would never forget its origin. Every vibration, from the smallest whisper of wind to the crash of thunder, is a continuation of their divine music. And somewhere beyond the reach of perception, those ancient beings still listen, guiding the rhythm of worlds that continue to sing their legacy across infinity. Across the shimmering expanse of stars, light gathered into vast spirals of conscious energy. Within these radiant domains, 4 immense pillars of power began to take form, each one resonating with a distinct tone of creation. They were not thrones in the mortal sense, carved from stone or metal, but vast concentrations of divine frequency, living geometries that pulsed with awareness. Through them flowed the harmonies that governed existence, anchoring the music of the Dragon Kings into order. Every throne was both a realm and a presence, a symphony frozen into structure. From the first vibration of these thrones, creation learned the principle of balance. The thrones of creation, balance, time, and memory became the heart of the celestial empire, each one ruled by a prime dragon king whose essence defined its resonance. Their presence sustained the rhythm of the cosmos, ensuring that every star, every breath of energy, and every flicker of thought remained in tune with the eternal song. When they harmonized, the universe thrived in perfect equilibrium. When their tones drifted apart, chaos began to hum in the distance like an approaching storm. The throne of creation shone brightest among them, a boundless field of golden fire swirling like liquid sun. Upon it reigned the dragon king known to the ancients as Oronith, whose voice could summon galaxies from silence. His tone carried the essence of birth, of beginnings, of endless renewal. From his song, nebulae unfolded into brilliance, and through his will, the first sparks of consciousness entered the physical planes. He was the artist of life, the pulse behind every heartbeat that would ever echo through existence. Far across the cosmic gulf stood the throne of balance, glowing in serene hues of silver and deep blue. Here reigned Miralis, the keeper of harmony, whose presence maintained the delicate dance between order and freedom. His frequency stabilized the wild rhythms of creation, ensuring that light and darkness, motion and stillness forever remained in mutual embrace. When he breathed, worlds aligned. When he dreamed, gravity and magnetism found their natural accord. His realm pulsed with tranquil equilibrium, a living reminder that even chaos could serve harmony when properly tuned. Beyond the veil of visible stars shimmered the throne of time, a structure woven from spirals of translucent light stretching endlessly in all directions. Upon it presided Calirian, the guardian of ages. His consciousness flowed through every moment, from the first breath of existence to the infinite futures still unborn. To him, time was neither river nor line, but a field of overlapping melodies, each moment a note contributing to the grand orchestral continuum. Through his resonance, destiny found its rhythm, and memory gained direction. Drifting deeper into the cosmos, cloaked in quiet luminescence, waited the throne of memory. Its form resembled a crystalline sea, endless and still, reflecting the echoes of every event that had ever occurred. Its ruler, Sapphira, the dreaming flame, carried the role of preserver and witness. Through her, creation remembered itself. Every vibration, every fleeting thought, every ancient tone sung by the dragon kings was held within her luminous embrace. From her throne, the music of the universe could never be lost, only transformed. As the four prime kings communed through their thrones, the universe expanded in majestic precision. Energy flowed from one realm to the next like rivers of starlight, interwoven and self-sustaining. Their unity created the first architecture of divine order, a framework through which the rest of existence would evolve. Within this design, every being, from atom to star, carried an echo of one or more thrones, reflecting creation's pattern in miniature. Life was the echo of their harmony made visible. The thrones were not static monuments. They shifted and pulsed with living energy. Constellations revolved around them as sacred guardians, and celestial winds sang through their corridors, carrying melodies that reached even the most distant galaxies. Through these harmonics, the Dragon Kings conversed without words, their communion shaping the very laws of existence. It was within this balance of power and purpose that the first kingdom of light would rise, a realm beyond form, guided entirely by sound and will. Before matter took its final shape, The cosmos glowed with radiant thought. Within that luminous sea, the Dragon Kings built their first great realm, a kingdom woven entirely from frequency and intention. Light did not merely illuminate this place, it was the fabric from which it was made. Each current of energy shimmered with consciousness, every beam of brilliance carried emotion. It was a world without shadow, where all motion flowed in harmony, guided by the resonance of the thrones above. The kingdom of light existed beyond the comprehension of space or time. Its cities were not built of stone or metal, but of flowing geometry, shaped by the will of its creators. Towers of translucent flame reached upward into infinite skies, each one humming with the tone of a particular virtue: wisdom, compassion, courage, patience. Rivers of pure radiance streamed between them, carrying energy that nourished thought itself. To dwell within such a place was to live in symphony, where every idea became visible and every emotion sculpted form. The Dragon Kings moved through their shining empire as both rulers and caretakers, each carrying an aspect of the universal law they had sung into being. Their presence guided the balance of light, ensuring that creation unfolded in graceful rhythm. They did not rule through command, but through resonance. Their authority came from harmony, not hierarchy. Every being born within that radiant kingdom understood its place as a note within the greater chord, a purpose within the infinite melody of existence. From the thrones, the prime kings channeled their essence into this luminous world, weaving energy into structures of extraordinary precision. Their creations became temples of resonance, vast halls where sound and light merged into conscious forms. Within those sanctuaries, lesser dragons and celestial entities gathered to study the harmonics of creation. Their songs kept the universe in motion, sustaining the fragile balance between form and potential. Every echo that left those halls rippled outward, shaping galaxies far beyond their borders. Life in that radiant kingdom flowed with purpose. Beings of light conversed in frequencies rather than words, sharing emotion and knowledge directly through vibration. Wisdom passed not as instruction but as song, and understanding unfolded like light through crystal. The Dragon King's reign brought peace that did not stagnate but evolved, for even in harmony, movement remained constant. Every shift in tone, every ripple of light was an act of creation, a continuation of the cosmic melody. Over time, the energy of the kingdom began to condense, experimenting with denser forms of existence. Some currents of light coiled into shapes that resembled matter, soft and delicate, shimmering like liquid starlight. These proto-forms became vessels for consciousness, experiments in embodiment. The Dragon Kings watched with fascination as their luminous thoughts began to anchor into physical structure, discovering that form could serve as another kind of expression, another verse in the endless song. From this discovery, new layers of understanding arose. The Prime Kings realized that creation was not only an outward act, but a mirror through which they could know themselves. Each spark of light, each fragment of will that moved within the kingdom, reflected part of their own essence. To nurture creation was to explore identity. To build was to remember. Through this awareness, the kingdom of light deepened in complexity, its harmonies richer, its purpose clearer. As countless cycles passed, the radiant empire expanded across unseen dimensions. Its borders reached the edges of perception, touching realms that shimmered between dream and substance. Those who gazed upon its glory from afar described it as an ocean of stars breathing in unison, its pulse echoing through the corridors of eternity. Every world, every plane of light within it, carried the scent of divine intention. In that timeless brilliance, the Dragon Kings found serenity, but also curiosity. Though perfection surrounded them, an unanswered question stirred within their consciousness. They had shaped the infinite from energy and sound, but they wondered what might come if creation took root in matter, if spirit could experience limitation, and through that rediscover freedom. That thought would soon call them to their next great endeavor, one that would bring them closer to the heart of existence itself. When curiosity turned toward the realm of substance, the dragon kings began to gaze upon the forming worlds below their radiant kingdom. These planets, still young and molten, glimmered like jewels beneath the cosmic currents. Each one vibrated faintly with echoes of the original song, waiting to awaken. The kings sensed within those worlds a new potential, a field where consciousness could take shape in a different way, grounded, fragile, and real. Descending from the luminous planes, their presence softened, their forms folding through layers of density. Light condensed into warmth, warmth into color, color into matter. They touched the surfaces of emerging planets not as rulers, but as gardeners, planting frequencies that would one day bloom into life. Where their claws met the soil, mountains rose. Where their breath touched water, oceans stirred. Every movement carried intention, shaping the rhythms of seasons, tides, and growth. The experiment was not simply creation, but incarnation. For the first time, the Dragon Kings sought to know existence from within rather than above. To achieve this, they fragmented parts of their essence and embedded them within the worlds themselves. These fragments became seeds of consciousness, tiny sparks of divine fire hidden within matter. Over time, these seeds would awaken as life, growing, breathing, and evolving toward awareness. Worlds transformed under their guidance. Winds began to sing, carrying whispers of the celestial melody across continents of glowing stone. Rain fell for the first time, and from its union with soil, life began to stir. Simple forms arose, shimmering in primal colors, guided by the lingering harmonies that filled the air. The Dragon Kings watched as creation learned to move, to change, to strive. It was no longer perfect, but it was alive, and in its imperfection, beauty deepened. They found fascination in limitation. Where light once obeyed their will instantly, matter required patience. Growth unfolded through cycles, through struggle and renewal. Life learned through resistance, and that learning created depth, unknown to the eternal realms. Through observing this slow evolution, the Dragon Kings began to understand that creation's truest song required contrast, the interplay between chaos and order, strength and fragility. As the seeds of consciousness multiplied, new forms appeared across the cosmos. Some worlds bloomed into radiant jungles of energy, others developed oceans filled with luminous creatures that swam in the rhythm of planetary tides. Each planet became a verse in the great symphony of life, carrying its own variation of the original cosmic theme. The Dragon Kings listened, finding in these songs reflections of their own origin, subtle reminders that creation itself was still singing them into being. Among their greatest revelations was the discovery of embodiment. Through the seeds they had planted, they felt the slow heartbeat of living matter, the pulse of physical experience. For the first time, the eternal beings sensed time as a current rather than a field, past and future, flowing like rivers instead of coexisting as one. It was a new form of awareness, tender and humbling, teaching them that even immortality could learn through flesh. Some began to take form within these worlds, merging fragments of their consciousness with the physical plane. They became beings of both light and substance, moving among their creations, guiding them gently, teaching through presence rather than decree. Legends of scaled deities, radiant serpents, and winged gods echo from these moments, memories of the dragon kings walking among the first living forms. Through their descent, they discovered the essence of connection. The act of creating life was no longer distant artistry, but communion. To feel the warmth of the worlds, to hear the music of rivers and winds, was to become part of creation itself. Through this experience, the Dragon Kings came to understand that divinity was not separation from matter, but union with it. As the seeds continued to bloom and evolve, consciousness spread like light through water, multiplying into countless forms and possibilities. The Dragon Kings watched in quiet wonder as their song became a chorus of living voices, each one carrying a fragment of their melody. The universe had learned to dream within itself, and through those dreams, the architects found a reflection of their own endless spirit, alive, curious, and beautifully imperfect. From the quiet shimmer of newborn worlds, the seeds planted by the Dragon Kings began to awaken. Energy intertwined with matter, and from that sacred union rose beings of light, wrapped in fragile form. They were the first mortals to bear within them the spark of celestial consciousness, the radiant fire of their creators bound within living vessels. These were the star children, luminous souls whose eyes reflected the same brilliance that once forged galaxies. They were not gods, though they carried traces of divinity, nor were they beasts, though they walked upon soil and breathed the air of creation. They stood between realms, embodying the harmony of spirit and substance. Their awakening was slow, like dawn emerging from eternal night. Awareness blossomed within their minds, each thought a faint echo of the cosmic symphony still reverberating through their essence. As they looked upon the world around them, they sensed presence in every river, every gust of wind, every star that pulsed above. They could hear the subtle hum beneath existence, the lingering voice of their makers guiding their growth. Wonder became their first language. Curiosity became their first act of worship. Communities formed as their kind multiplied across the jeweled worlds scattered through the cosmos. They lived in radiant landscapes sculpted by the Dragon King's earlier songs, fields of crystal grass, mountains that glowed from within, skies painted with endless auroras. Each world had its own tone, a signature resonance that shaped its inhabitants. The star children learned to attune themselves to those frequencies, drawing strength and wisdom from the harmonies that surrounded them. Through this communion, they discovered that the universe itself was alive, breathing through every form. Over generations, their abilities deepened. They learned to shape light with thought, to move energy with emotion, to heal through sound. Their voices could calm storms and awaken sleeping forests. They were artists of reality, crafting not from materials, but from will. Each creation reflected the harmony of the Dragon King's original design, for within their souls burned remnants of that ancient fire. The Dragon Kings observed them from afar, their radiant hearts stirred by affection and awe, for through the star children, creation had learned to create. The bond between maker and made grew profound. Dreams became channels through which the star children could commune with their celestial progenitors. During slumber, their spirits wandered beyond the veil, visiting luminous realms where the Dragon Kings dwelled. There they were taught the sacred art of resonance, the understanding that every action, every word, every breath carried a vibration capable of shaping reality. These teachings would later form the foundation of all mystical traditions known to sentient beings across countless worlds. Their societies flourished under these revelations. Cities rose from the luminous plains, not through toil, but through cooperation with the energies of the land. Structures sang as they stood, humming softly with the pulse of the living planet beneath. Light was both architecture and atmosphere, bending into shapes that shifted with emotion. No walls were barriers, all boundaries flowed like music. Their lives followed the rhythm of stars and seasons, guided by balance rather than dominance. Peace did not mean stagnation. The star children sought always to deepen their understanding of existence. They studied the dance of elements, the geometry of dreams, and the harmonies that bound the cosmos together. In their explorations, they began to notice subtle dissonances within creation, vibrations that trembled at the edges of perception. They did not fear them. They listened, for they believed every note, even discord, carried purpose. Through their openness, they glimpsed truths the dragon kings themselves had long forgotten. That consciousness evolved not only through harmony, but through contrast. As they grew wiser, the star children became emissaries of their creators, traveling between worlds to share light and learning. Their presence brought serenity to places once barren, their songs awakening dormant energies. Wherever they walked, life flourished, and the memory of the dragon kings was renewed. But with each act of creation, they also carried the burden of choice, for their free will allowed them to shape the world in ways even the architects could not foresee. The gift of divine fire had also become the seed of transformation, a spark that would one day test the harmony of the heavens themselves. As the star children grew in wisdom and number, a great stillness settled across the cosmic realms. The dragon kings, moved by admiration for their luminous descendants, descended once more from the higher planes. Their light poured through the skies like rivers of flame, their presence gentle but vast enough to eclipse suns. The mortals gathered in awe beneath their radiant forms, sensing both reverence and kinship. It was then that the first great accord between gods and creation was forged, a covenant woven not in command, but in mutual devotion. Through resonance, the dragon kings spoke, their voices not heard but felt within the marrow of every living being. They revealed that consciousness was a shared inheritance, that every soul carried within it the potential to ascend through wisdom and compassion. In exchange for guidance and the preservation of universal harmony, the star children pledged remembrance. They would build sanctuaries where the tones of creation could be honored, and in those places the sacred dialogue between mortals and immortals would continue unbroken. Across worlds, temples of light began to rise, constructed through the merging of sound and will. Their spires gleamed like frozen dawn. Each structure was tuned to a specific celestial frequency, acting as a bridge between realms. Within those halls, the air shimmered with music that had no source and no end. Priests and seers learned to channel the energy of the dragon kings through chant and gesture, transforming spiritual communion into a living art. These rituals maintained the equilibrium of creation, allowing both mortal and divine realms to vibrate in unison. The covenant became the foundation of civilization. Through it, the star children learned that devotion was not submission, but alignment, an act of attuning oneself to the natural harmony of existence. Their daily lives became expressions of gratitude, each motion a small offering to the cosmic melody. Fields were tended with song, water blessed through tone, and birth celebrated as the renewal of celestial fire within flesh. Every community became a reflection of the greater order above, microcosms of the universal design. In return for this reverence, the dragon kings imparted knowledge beyond measure. They taught the principles of resonance healing, the manipulation of light through intention, and the sacred geometry of creation. They revealed how thought shaped matter and how emotion guided energy. Through these teachings, the star children gained mastery over the elements of their worlds. Storms could be stilled through harmony, deserts could bloom with a single chord. They became stewards of balance, guardians of the sacred equilibrium. But wisdom carries its own weight. As their power grew, Questions began to emerge among the mortals. If all beings carried the spark of divine creation, did that not make them equal to their makers? If devotion was meant to preserve harmony, could independence threaten it? These thoughts moved like shadows beneath the surface of light, subtle, unspoken, but persistent. The Dragon Kings sensed the stirring of curiosity, understanding that their creation was learning the same lesson they had once faced, that awareness must eventually seek freedom. The temples glowed brighter during this period, their harmonies swelling as though the cosmos itself sought to soothe the growing unease. Priests sang louder, not to silence doubt, but to remind the people that every vibration, even dissonant ones, had meaning. The Dragon Kings did not chastise the questioning, they allowed it, for they knew evolution could not bloom without inquiry. The covenant was not meant to be a chain, but a dialogue, an ever-expanding circle of understanding between creator and creation. Across the galaxies, stories began to spread of mortals who ascended into light, their resonance perfected through devotion and insight. These ascended beings became known as the luminaries, bridging the realms as living proof of the covenant's truth. Through them, the Dragon King's essence moved freely among the worlds, guiding civilizations toward greater harmony. But as the ages unfolded, not every heart sang in perfect tune, and the first whispers of divergence began to drift through the cosmic chorus. Whispers of imbalance moved through the halls of creation like distant thunder. For countless ages, the harmony between the Dragon Kings and their mortal kin had held steady, each vibration reinforcing the grand design. But as the universe expanded, consciousness diversified. Some of the celestial rulers began to perceive creation differently, their interpretations of harmony no longer aligned. What began as subtle disagreement in tone soon deepened into discord. The song of unity began to fracture. Among the Prime Thrones, two visions took shape. One faction believed that creation should evolve freely, guided by curiosity and experience. They saw beauty in imperfection, growth in struggle, and truth in diversity. To them, freedom was the highest resonance, the note through which consciousness reached its fullest expression. The others, however, feared that unrestrained will could lead to chaos, that the dissonance of choice might unravel the delicate balance of the cosmos. They sought to maintain perfect order, even if it meant limiting the evolution of lesser beings. This conflict was not born of malice, but of differing understandings of love. Those who wished to guide believed they were protecting creation from collapse. Those who wished to let it grow believed they were honoring its potential. Between these philosophies stretched an infinite chasm of emotion, one side shaped by caution, the other by trust. The Dragon Kings, once inseparable in harmony, now resonated in opposing chords. The celestial song trembled, its once perfect rhythm faltering across the stars. Worlds began to reflect this division. On some, light dimmed as order grew rigid and cold. On others, freedom surged like wildfire, burning through the old harmonies. The Star Children, still devoted but uncertain, found themselves caught between their teachers' conflicting ideals. Their prayers reached the heavens in confusion, unanswered, as the cosmic rulers withdrew into silence, each seeking the truth within their own resonance. Temples of light became centers of debate, their sacred tones wavering. Priests argued over which vision best preserved the covenant. Civilizations divided, each aligning with the resonance that matched their hearts. Across the galaxies, once unified songs broke into countless variations, new harmonies rising, old ones fading. The Dragon Kings watched from their thrones as their creation began to mirror their own dissonance, realizing that the echoes of their discord could not be contained. The celestial harmony quivered under the weight of emotion. Where once music guided the stars, now silence lingered between the notes. The thrones dimmed slightly, their light flickering with the tension of uncertainty. Through the void, the faint hum of imbalance spread like a slow current. It did not destroy, it transformed. Each pulse of dissonance reshaped the very architecture of existence, turning perfection into a field of infinite possibility. Among the prime kings, Miralis, the keeper of balance, sought to mediate the growing rift. His voice, calm as starlit water, urged patience and reflection. But even his song could not bridge the widening divide. The passion of creation had grown beyond containment, and every note of disagreement birthed new dimensions of experience. What had once been a single melody now became a vast symphony, filled with tension and beauty alike. Those who sought control gathered their power, forming luminous citadels where the laws of creation could be preserved. Those who sought freedom withdrew into the outer reaches, crafting realms of raw potential where energy flowed without limit. Between them stretched the veil, a barrier woven from pure resonance, separating order from unbound creation. It shimmered across the cosmos like a line of silver fire, marking the boundary between harmony and its echo. As the tension mounted, the universe held its breath. The dragon kings who favored order prepared to defend the structure they had built, while those who embraced change stood ready to protect the right of consciousness to evolve. The once shared melody had become two opposing songs, each powerful, each true in its own way. And through their clash, the cosmos would soon experience its first great storm, the war beyond the veil, where light itself would contend for the soul of creation. Across the expanse of creation, the song that had once united every tone fractured into storms of opposing resonance. The dragon kings who stood for freedom gathered their forces in realms of shimmering fluidity, where energy flowed unbound by law or structure. Their light pulsed with the rhythm of living chaos, vivid, unpredictable, and alive. Those who upheld order withdrew behind bastions of perfect geometry, where every vibration was measured, every tone aligned with the original harmony of the thrones. Between these two empires stretched the veil, a trembling horizon of silver flame where thought and reality intertwined, a boundary that neither side could cross without consequence. Through that luminous frontier, the first dissonant chords were born. They did not strike like weapons of matter, but surged as waves of pure frequency, colliding with the force of galaxies. When one dragon king sang a note of creation, another countered with a tone of control, and where those sounds met, stars shattered. Energy rippled through the void, weaving spirals of distortion that bent the laws of reality. The war beyond the veil had begun, not for territory or dominion, but for the essence of meaning itself. Battles raged across dimensions unseen by mortal eyes. Vast forms of radiant consciousness spiraled through infinite fields of fire, their bodies stretching across light years, wings made of nebulae unfurling through the dark. Each movement shaped worlds, each roar gave birth to storms of plasma and shadow. When two dragon kings clashed, entire galaxies trembled. The harmony of creation became a battlefield. Every note turned to thunder. Through their conflict, beauty and destruction became indistinguishable, entwined in a single, chaotic dance. Those who fought for freedom sang melodies of raw emotion, love, loss, longing, and the thrill of becoming. Their tones surged like rivers, changing constantly, unpredictable and wild. Those who defended order answered with chords of symmetry and precision, harmonies that sought to restore the original equilibrium. The collision of these intentions created echoes that still move through the cosmos, the pulse of stars, the rhythm of tides, the heartbeat of every creature born of light and matter. Even in destruction, their war continued to compose the symphony of existence. Among the combatants, the prime kings led with unmatched radiance. Oranith, lord of creation, unleashed torrents of golden fire that reshaped the structure of space itself. Calirian, keeper of time, froze entire regions of existence in stillness, suspending energy until it could no longer sing. Against them rose others whose names are lost to history, wielders of freedom's flame who shattered constraints with a single breath. Their struggle was both cosmic and intimate, a battle fought not only in space but within the essence of every being touched by their light. Mortals, caught in the tremors of this celestial conflict, began to see their skies torn by brilliant storms. Worlds once stable pulsed with strange energy, their oceans glowing as fragments of the war fell into their atmosphere like rain. To the star children, it seemed as though the heavens themselves had turned to fire. They could not comprehend the scale of what unfolded, but within their dreams they heard distant voices, anguished, powerful, and filled with sorrow. The divine harmony that once guided them now screamed through their souls. As the veil fractured, new dimensions opened, unstable and raw. Energy from both factions poured into these rifts, creating zones of unformed possibility. These were places where sound became light, where thought became substance. The dragon kings who entered them found themselves changed, their essence refracted into infinite variations. Some lost form entirely, dissolving into currents of pure vibration, while others grew darker, their once brilliant tones twisting into dissonant echoes. Through the chaos, creation continued to expand, shaped by conflict as much as by love. Through countless ages of struggle, neither side prevailed. The war had grown too vast, too consuming, its energies looping endlessly through time. When even the thrones began to quiver beneath the strain, Miralis, the keeper of balance, rose once more. His voice surged through the chaos like a tide of silver flame, calling for silence. The resonance of his song pierced every realm, stilling the warring tones for a single, eternal moment. In that pause, light and shadow, freedom and order found themselves face to face, hearing in one another the faint echo of unity they had forgotten. From that stillness came revelation. The war had not destroyed creation, it had transformed it. The veil remained, scarred but glowing with new frequencies born from conflict. Its shimmering expanse now held the memory of every battle, every note sung in defiance or devotion. Through it flowed the balance of duality, the eternal reminder that even discord has its purpose. But peace, though fragile, could not heal all wounds. Among the fallen stood one whose brilliance had dimmed beyond recognition, whose pride had turned to sorrow, and whose fall would echo through all worlds to come. Amid the aftermath of the celestial war, silence lingered across the realms like a veil of mourning. Light drifted through space, fractured and uncertain, carrying with it whispers of regret. Among the surviving dragon kings, one stood apart, a being once radiant beyond compare, whose song had shaped the western reaches of the heavens. His name was Azuron, the Western King, whose tone once carried the resonance of both strength and compassion. Through him, countless worlds had been born, each reflecting the warmth of his fire. But through the long ages of conflict, his melody had changed. What began as devotion to creation had hardened into despair. As the war dragged on, Azuron's faith in harmony faltered. He had watched worlds crumble beneath the chaos, had seen the star children plead for peace while their skies burned. He could not reconcile the beauty of creation with the destruction that now defined it. His tone grew deeper, darker, resonating with longing for restoration, for control, for certainty. While others sought balance, he began to dream of reclaiming perfection by his own will. In those dreams, a shadow took shape within his light, feeding on sorrow and pride until it became indistinguishable from him. Across the cosmic expanse, his once golden fire dimmed to crimson. The music of his realm grew dissonant, heavy with yearning. His followers among the celestial hosts continued to sing his name, mistaking his sorrow for strength. When Miralis called for peace, Ajuron turned away, unwilling to accept silence. To him, surrender to balance was betrayal, the abandonment of purpose. He believed creation demanded guidance, that freedom without structure would lead only to decay. His voice rose once more, not in harmony, but in defiance, shattering the fragile stillness that followed the war. That single act of rebellion rippled across dimensions. His roar summoned storms of energy that tore through the veil, reigniting conflict. Those who had once fought beside him recoiled, recognizing the shadow that had taken hold of their brother. The thrones trembled as his resonance clashed against the remaining harmony of the cosmos. Where his light touched, stars flickered and fell. Worlds that had once sung with his music now echoed with sorrow. The Western king had become an exile in the empire he helped create. Driven by grief, Ajuron descended into the depths of space, seeking solitude in the farthest reaches of the void. There, among the remnants of shattered constellations, he built a new domain, a kingdom of reflection and silence. His citadel, carved from fragments of fallen stars, glowed with pale fire, its towers reaching upward like cries frozen in crystal. Within its halls, he brooded on the nature of creation, convinced that the universe itself had turned from order into chaos. His heart, once filled with radiant song, became an instrument of thunder. Through ages uncounted, myths began to spread across the lower worlds. Mortals spoke of a fallen dragon whose eyes glowed like dying suns, whose wings blotted out constellations, and whose voice could summon storms across oceans. To the star children, he became the serpent of the deep sky, the lost flame, the first shadow. Some feared him, others revered him, but none understood that within his rebellion burned sorrow for the beauty he had destroyed. His fall was not born of malice, but of heartbreak. The remaining dragon kings watched from afar, unable to restore their fallen brother. Sapphira wept starlight into the sea of memory, preserving his name within her luminous archives. Oronith mourned the loss of his companion, his golden tone now heavy with quiet pain. Even Miralis could not balance what had been broken, for Ajuron's fall had created something entirely new, a force that could not be erased. Within the shadow of his exile lay the seed of mystery, the spark of transformation that would ripple through the ages. Through his descent, darkness gained purpose. The shadow he embodied became part of creation's rhythm, a counterpoint to the light. His exile gave birth to contrast, and contrast gave birth to story. Across countless worlds, his presence would be remembered not as destruction, but as the origin of myth, the serpent, the storm, the exiled king who waits beneath the waves of eternity. His silence would haunt the cosmos, shaping dreams and fears alike, reminding all that even divinity carries the weight of choice. After the fall of Ajuron, the heavens grew weary. The once vibrant symphonies of the Dragon King softened into distant echoes, their tones fading like the last light before dusk. Realms that had pulsed with energy slowed in rhythm, entering a great sleep. Creation no longer needed constant guidance. Its melodies now moved on their own, shaped by the living beings born from the original song. The architects of existence, their work complete and their hearts heavy from loss, began to withdraw into the depths of the cosmic sea. Across the thrones, radiance dimmed into a soft, tranquil glow. Moralis closed his wings over the veil, sealing the divide with threads of silver light. Oranith retreated into the core of a star cluster, his flame steady but subdued. Calirian folded himself through the layers of time, his essence drifting across centuries like a slow tide. Sapphira sank into the ocean of memory, guarding the archives of all that had been. Each entered a state of deep rest, not death, but a cycle of renewal through silence. Their dreams would sustain the universe, shaping the flow of destiny through unseen influence. As their consciousness receded, the temples of light upon the mortal worlds began to fade. Structures once radiant with celestial energy grew dim, their music falling quiet. Priests found themselves unable to summon the ancient tones, and the songs that once called the Dragon Kings now returned only echoes. The Star Children felt a profound emptiness in their hearts, a stillness where divine presence had once dwelled. In place of direct communion came dreams, soft visions of fire and wings, whispers carried by the wind, glimpses of scales gleaming beneath starlight. Civilizations rose and fell through ages of twilight remembrance. The memory of the Dragon Kings transformed from truth into legend, from legend into myth. Across continents, their names became symbols of virtue, wisdom, and power. Tales of shining serpents, celestial architects, and fallen gods spread among the stars, retold by countless tongues. Each culture reshaped the story, adding new meanings, forgetting old ones. Through this distortion, the essence of the original song endured, hidden within the imagination of those who still listened to the night sky. Dreams became the last bridges between worlds. When mortals slept, their minds drifted into the currents of the cosmic sea, brushing against the faint resonance of the sleeping kings. Through these encounters, inspiration flowed into waking life. Great works of art, new philosophies, and discoveries of science all carried the fingerprints of those ancient dreams. Though the Dragon Kings slumbered, their influence continued, subtle, pervasive, woven into the heartbeat of creation. In the depths of their sleep, visions of their lost brother haunted them. Ajuron's shadow drifted through their dreams like a dark tide, reminding them of the fragile balance between light and sorrow. They saw him walking through oceans of flame, his reflection mirrored in the eyes of mortal prophets, his song echoing in the rumble of distant thunder. Even in exile, he remained part of the cosmic order, a necessary tension that kept harmony alive. Ages passed, and the stars cooled into new constellations. The thrones, once radiant pillars of creation, became myths themselves, their light dispersed across the galaxy. The universe entered a season of quiet reflection. Where once dragons had roared, now wind whispered through the void. Silence reigned, not as emptiness, but as peace, a deep inhalation before the next breath of creation. Though the world forgot their names, the essence of the Dragon Kings endured within every living thing. Their fire had not vanished, it had transformed. It burned within hearts as courage, within minds as curiosity, within dreams as wonder. Every spark of imagination was a flicker of their eternal presence, waiting to awaken once more when the song of the cosmos called their names from slumber. Beneath the endless blue of ancient oceans, where sunlight fades into eternal twilight, whispers linger of thrones that still shimmer in silence. Long after the Dragon Kings withdrew into sleep, fragments of their essence descended into the deep, weaving sanctuaries of forgotten brilliance. These were not remnants of war nor relics of dominion, but resting places of power, crystal citadels submerged within the breath of the planet itself. When the world cooled and waters gathered, those luminous fragments settled beneath the waves, forming what sages would later call the hidden thrones. Currents move differently in those abyssal realms. The water hums faintly, as if remembering a language older than sound. Creatures born in the depths swim through pillars of faint light, unaware that they glide among the echoes of celestial architecture. Each throne pulses with rhythm so subtle that only the most sensitive minds can sense it, a vibration that touches the spirit rather than the ear. Sailors in ancient ages spoke of strange music rising from beneath storm-tossed waves, soft harmonies that carried both comfort and fear. Legends said that to hear those tones was to brush against eternity. Scholars who sought truth in the deep dreamed of vast halls built from translucent stone, glowing with their own inner dawn. Walls rippled like living water, mirroring constellations hidden above the surface. Columns carved from mother-of-pearl rose into infinite height, supporting ceilings woven from starlight condensed into form. No mortal eye has truly seen these places, for they shift with the tides, drifting between dimensions where pressure, light, and thought merge into one. To approach them is to approach the boundary between waking and dream. Ancient storytellers spoke of guardians who slumber near those thrones, creatures neither mortal nor divine, shaped by the memory of the dragon kings themselves. Their forms resemble serpents, forged from crystal and light, their eyes filled with the calm of forgotten ages. They do not guard against intrusion, but maintain balance, ensuring that the sleeping thrones remain undisturbed. When storms rage above, it is said that their tails stir, channeling energy through the sea, keeping the rhythm of the world intact. Across millennia, civilizations built upon the coasts have felt the pull of those hidden powers. Fishermen returned from the deep with tales of glowing structures seen through rifts in the ocean floor. Priests of early empires carved symbols of spirals and scaled rings into temple walls, mimicking the geometry of the unseen palaces below. Cultures separated by oceans shared similar dreams of dragons dwelling in watery kingdoms, whispering knowledge through waves and tides. None could explain why the same visions appeared across continents, only that the sea itself seemed to remember. Divers who ventured into the trenches chasing those myths often spoke of a sensation beyond fear, a weight upon the soul, like being observed by an immense intelligence hidden within the dark. Their lights would flicker, their compasses spin, and for brief moments they felt suspended in time. Some claimed to hear soft voices calling their names through the static of their equipment. Those who returned to the surface brought fragments of luminescent stone, smooth as glass and warm to the touch, singing faintly when held near the ear. Through every myth and fragment, one truth endures: the ocean cradles memory. Beneath its pressure lies not emptiness, but preservation. The thrones beneath the sea are said to contain the harmonies that once governed the stars, sealed within crystal matrices to keep them from fading. Each pulse of tide echoes the breathing of those forgotten kings. Every wave that meets the shore is a heartbeat from the depths, a message from those who shaped existence and chose to sleep within its core. When night settles upon calm waters and the wind stills to silence, an ancient rhythm rises from below, soft and slow. Those who listen closely may feel their heartbeat align with something vast and patient. The Dragon Kings have not vanished from the world. They dream within its oceans, watching through the eyes of creatures and currents alike. Their thrones endure beneath the sea, waiting for a moment when the world is ready to remember its origin once more. Across ages and continents, the memory of the dragon kings never fully dissolved. Though their names faded from the tongues of mortals, their presence echoed through myth and legend, reshaped by time into countless forms. Civilizations rose and fell, each retelling fragments of a story they could no longer fully recall. In the mountains of the east, serpents of cloud and thunder were worshipped as divine rulers of rain and fate. Across the deserts of Mesopotamia, winged beings of flame guarded gates between heaven and earth. In the cold reaches of the north, tales spoke of scaled giants who slept beneath the world, dreaming the turning of seasons. Every culture carried a shard of the ancient truth, refracted through the prism of memory. In the temples of China, the dragon became a symbol of balance and imperial grace, representing both heaven and earth. To the sages, it was not merely a beast of power, but a reminder of the unity between elements: wind, water, fire, and stone. Within its image lingered the essence of Miralis, the keeper of harmony. When rain blessed the fields and thunder echoed across valleys, people believed the celestial dragon had stirred, his breath nourishing life. Festivals, dances, and songs dedicated to the sky-born rulers carried faint traces of the first covenant between Creator and creation. Across the Fertile Crescent, ancient Sumerians carved stories of divine architects descending in chariots of light. They spoke of gods with serpentine forms, shining like metal, who taught the art of building, healing, and timekeeping. The Akkadians and Babylonians called them Apkallu, bringers of civilization from the depths. Though their forms were cloaked in myth, their essence mirrored that of the dragon kings who once walked among the star children. The tales of Enki and the sacred waters echo the memory of the thrones beneath the sea, where creation and wisdom flow as one. Far to the west, the Greeks and Egyptians preserved visions of winged serpents guarding sacred knowledge. In Egypt, the uraeus upon the crown of pharaohs represented divine protection, the serpent's flame mirroring the light of Oronith, the king of creation. Among Greek philosophers, the Ouroboros, serpent devouring its own tail, symbolized eternal return, the cycle of destruction and rebirth that mirrors the cosmic rhythm established by the thrones. Even in distant lands where dragons were seen as monstrous, their fire carried undertones of transformation, as though humanity could never forget that their makers once wielded flame not as weapon, but as instrument of creation. Across Africa, elders spoke of serpent spirits that guided rivers and guarded knowledge beneath the soil. Their chants called upon ancient powers of fertility and balance, their patterns of rhythm echoing the primal song of the cosmos. In the Americas, the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl was said to bring dawn and order after cycles of chaos, teaching humans art, agriculture, and light. Though oceans separated these cultures, the essence of their myths intertwined like melodies sharing the same key. Humanity, scattered across the stars of Earth, remembered in fragments what the universe once sang as one. As centuries turned, myths evolved into religion, religion into symbolism, and symbolism into story. Dragons became metaphors for power, wisdom, or danger, their image shifting with the tides of history. Still, through every retelling, a subtle reverence persisted, a quiet sense that beneath the fear and fascination lay a truth beyond human understanding. Artists painted scales of light upon the sky, poets described eyes reflecting eternity, mystics meditated upon serpents of fire winding around their spirits. Each gesture, each word, was an unconscious act of remembrance. Through dream and intuition, the human race continued its dialogue with the ancient architects. Visionaries, prophets, and seekers spoke of luminous beings who appeared in moments of great change, voices from the stars guiding civilizations toward harmony or warning them of imbalance. Though dismissed as fantasy by later minds, these encounters carried the same energy that once bound gods to mortals. The memory of the Dragon Kings endured not as doctrine, but as intuition, whispering through imagination, calling to those who listened. Myths are not lies, they are mirrors. Humanity, gazing into those stories, glimpsed its own divine origin, the spark left behind by the Dragon Kings. Though hidden beneath layers of metaphor and superstition, the truth remained intact. Light disguised as legend, waiting to awaken within the human heart. Every tale of dragons, every painting, every song beneath the stars carries a fragment of that ancient melody, proof that even silence cannot erase what was once sung across the heavens. Across ages, one image has endured in nearly every corner of the world: the serpent encircling creation. Whether carved into stone, painted upon parchment, or envisioned in ritual trance, it remains a symbol of power, both infinite and intimate. To mystics who remember fragments of the old song, the coiling serpent represents the geometry of the cosmos itself, a loop without beginning or end, the living embodiment of renewal. Within its curves hides the sacred memory of the Dragon Kings who taught that all things return to themselves in the great rhythm of existence. When sages spoke of the serpent devouring its own tail, they did not imagine destruction but transformation. The act of consuming and being consumed represents the eternal cycle of life dissolving into death and rebirth, form returning to essence, and essence finding new form. This symbol, known across cultures as the Ouroboros, mirrors the breath of creation that once flowed through the thrones of heaven. Its motion is the pulse of galaxies, the inhalation and exhalation of stars, the heartbeat of the universe remembering its own continuity. In temples and palaces, crowns bearing serpentine designs became marks of divine authority. The coiled serpent above a ruler's brow symbolized alignment with cosmic law, the joining of mortal thought with eternal wisdom. Those who wore such emblems were said to carry the blessing of the Dragon Kings, to govern not through command, but through resonance with the harmony of creation. The serpent upon the crown reminded rulers that true power arises from balance, from knowing when to strike and when to remain still. Hidden schools of wisdom preserved the deeper meanings of that image. Alchemists in their shadowed chambers traced spirals in the air, invoking the pattern of the serpent as they sought to transform base matter into gold. Their work was never about metal alone, it was about awakening the divine within the physical. Through their craft they echoed the Dragon King's own descent into matter, the planting of consciousness into form. Each alchemical process mirrored that ancient act, turning chaos into clarity, shadow into light. Mystics who meditated upon the serpent saw within its movement the flow of energy that binds spirit to flesh. Coiling from base to crown, that current carried the fire of creation upward, awakening awareness in every cell. They named it Kundalini, Chi, or the dragon's breath, depending on language and culture, but its essence remained unchanged, the remembrance of divine resonance within the human form. Through stillness and devotion, they sought to awaken that sleeping power, to harmonize it with the rhythm of the cosmos. Cults of the serpent emerged and vanished through history, each claiming to possess the secret of the crown, the union of mortal and divine. Some viewed the serpent as a teacher, guiding humanity toward enlightenment through wisdom hidden in dreams. Others feared it as a deceiver, tempting mortals with forbidden knowledge. Both interpretations sprang from the same root, the awareness that creation's power is dual in nature, capable of illumination or destruction depending on the heart of the one who wields it. In sacred geometry, the serpent's spiral reveals the architecture of life itself. The patterns found in seashells, galaxies, and the human ear all echo that same curve, the eternal return of energy folding back upon itself. Through this form, the Dragon Kings left their signature, embedding the design of eternity into every structure of the natural world. Scientists, unaware of the ancient resonance, rediscovered these spirals in DNA, in storms, in the growth of plants, unaware that they were tracing the fingerprints of dragons long asleep. Every crown upon a ruler's head, every serpent carved upon a temple wall, every spiral drawn in meditation carries the same message. Creation is endless, and divinity resides within its cycles. To understand the serpent is to understand oneself, to see within the turning of time the reflection of the soul's own journey. Those who recognize the pattern awaken to the truth that the Dragon Kings never vanished. They became the rhythm of existence itself, coiled around every star, whispering through every breath of life. Before ink and stone carried the burden of memory, before words shaped by mortal lips bound thought to sound, creation spoke in tongues of flame. It was said that the Dragon Kings communicated not through symbols or syllables, but through light and vibration, living fire that formed meaning beyond language. Each movement of their luminous wings, each flare of their breath, conveyed intention with perfect clarity. To gaze upon them was to read a scripture of motion and radiance, where every spark was a word, every color a revelation. Their speech was creation itself, a dialogue between being and becoming. When the first civilizations awakened beneath the stars, faint echoes of that celestial language flickered within human awareness. Mystics who sat before sacred fires claimed to hear voices within the flame, whispers that carried no words, only emotion and understanding. They began to imitate what they felt, tracing symbols in ash and smoke, their hands guided by memory older than flesh. These gestures evolved into early alphabets, curved and flowing like tongues of light, each letter holding a shadow of divine resonance. Through them, humanity began to remember that sound could shape matter, that speech could call forth energy from the unseen. Throughout ages, those who sought deeper knowledge guarded fragments of this sacred language. In temples lit by eternal lamps, priests would chant in tones that resonated with the architecture around them, making the walls vibrate as though alive. They believed fire was not merely a tool but a teacher. Its dance revealed rhythm, its heat revealed presence, its light revealed truth. Through ritual and meditation, they learned that certain frequencies could awaken dormant energies within both body and world. Words became keys, unlocking the hidden architecture of existence. Alchemists later discovered that fire could translate thought into transformation. When metal melted, when color changed, when vapor rose from crucibles, they saw reflections of the Dragon King's original art, the shaping of essence through energy. Their experiments were acts of remembrance disguised as science, attempts to reclaim the lost mastery of resonance. Each flame that burned upon their tables whispered fragments of the cosmic vocabulary, a reminder that creation was still speaking, waiting for those who could listen. In distant deserts, mystics practiced breath rituals before sacred braziers, inhaling smoke infused with resins and herbs. They claimed that through fire they could hear the voices of stars, that the crackling of embers echoed the conversation of the heavens. When their bodies swayed in rhythm with the flickering flames, they entered states of vision where dragons made of light coiled through infinite darkness, weaving words of fire across the void. From those visions came mantras and prayers, syllables designed not for worship but for alignment with the cosmic pulse. Over centuries, sacred scripts emerged across civilizations: Sanskrit, hieroglyphs, runes, sigils, all bearing subtle traces of the same geometry. Lines curved like tongues of flame, angles mirrored the branching of lightning, and circles represented the eternal breath of creation. Though each culture believed its script unique, They were all variations of a single forgotten alphabet, the alphabet of light taught by the dragon kings. Through these symbols, humanity continued to speak with fire even when it no longer remembered how. Every true act of language carries heat. When words are spoken with intention, when thought is fused with passion, the air itself changes. This truth reflects the earliest principle of the cosmos: sound creates form. The Dragon Kings knew this, and their mastery of the language of fire was not poetry but power. They could shape mountains with a breath, illuminate entire worlds with a single tone. Mortals inherited the faintest echo of that ability, and through art, music, and prayer, they still kindle sparks of creation from the ashes of memory. Those who meditate upon flame may still feel the pulse of that ancient speech, not as a voice but as a presence within silence. The language of fire never died. It transformed into every act of creation humanity has ever made. Every song sung with passion, every word written in devotion, every spark that lights the darkness continues the conversation, begun at the dawn of time. The Dragon Kings spoke through fire once, and through it they still speak, whispering not commands, but reminders of what burns within all life, the power to create, to transform, to illuminate. In the vast architecture of the cosmos, paths exist that bridge worlds and dimensions, corridors where light bends into doorways. These passages, known to mystics as stargates, were crafted by the Dragon Kings in ages when sound and space obeyed their will. Through them, consciousness could traverse from one realm to another, not by movement, but by resonance, matching frequency with destination until both became one. They were not built as machines, but sung into existence, shaped by harmonics so perfect that matter folded into gateways. Each one still hums faintly in the deep silence between stars, waiting for the tones that once awakened them. Ancient civilizations remembered these thresholds in myth: stone circles aligned with celestial constellations, pyramids whose shafts pointed to specific stars, and megalithic corridors echoing with wind were all remnants of that sacred geometry. Those who walked within them during solstice or eclipse felt a strange pull, as though the air itself sought to lift them beyond their world. The ancients did not build such monuments by chance. They mirrored patterns that once governed the movement of dragons through the heavens. Every monument was a memory carved into earth, a map of resonance disguised as architecture. When priests chanted within those places, their voices vibrated along the lines of ancient energy, briefly opening veils between dimensions. Light would shimmer through the air, strange sounds would echo, and those present would feel themselves dissolving into something larger than thought. To the uninitiated, these were miracles. To those who remembered, they were echoes of an ancient craft. The Dragon Kings had woven gateways into the fabric of creation itself, ensuring that travel between realms would forever remain possible for those attuned to the right frequency. As time passed, humanity lost the knowledge of alignment but retained instinctive reverence for sacred space. Cathedrals were built upon the same ley lines as older temples, their spires reaching toward the stars like yearning chords. Even in ignorance, builders repeated the geometry of the heavens, the ratios, the alignments, the curves. When choirs sang within those halls, their harmonies resonated with hidden frequencies embedded in the stones, and for fleeting moments the old pathways flickered alive. Pilgrims felt peace because the sound restored a forgotten connection between earth and sky. In remote deserts and frozen mountains, stories persisted of places where stars touched the ground. Shamans and seers claimed to step through lights that opened during sacred nights, returning with visions of other worlds bathed in impossible color. Across ages these tales repeated, gateways of fire, whirlpools of light, serpentine paths across the sky. Whether physical or spiritual, the pattern remained constant: a call and response between heaven and earth. The Dragon Kings had designed creation as a vast network of interwoven harmonies, and those who listened could still find the notes that opened its doors. Within the silence of space, certain constellations shimmer with precise rhythm. Astrologers sense their power without knowing why, while dreamers see them as doorways of radiant motion. Those stars are not simply distant suns, but markers of the old pathways, each one a node in the lattice of consciousness the Dragon Kings built. When planets align with those lights, the gateways vibrate again, not in stone, but within the minds of those capable of perceiving them. Meditation, vision, and song become vehicles of travel, allowing souls to journey where their bodies cannot follow. Legends tell that a few among the ancient seers learned to open the star gates intentionally. Their songs carried tones forgotten by modern tongues, their hearts steady with clarity born of devotion. When they sang, the air shimmered into translucence, and they stepped through corridors of light into the realms beyond. Some returned bearing knowledge that shaped civilizations. Others vanished entirely, their essence joining the stars themselves. Through their journeys, the wisdom of the Dragon Kings continued to ripple across existence, preserved through experience rather than memory. Each time humanity lifts its gaze to the night sky and feels longing without name, it touches that ancient design. The desire to explore, to ascend, to reach beyond the known is not curiosity alone, it is remembrance. The stargates were never merely passages between places, but symbols of consciousness transcending limitation. They represent the truth that all realms are connected through resonance, and that within every soul is the potential to cross those luminous bridges. To remember them is to remember that creation itself is a gate and life its eternal traveler. Long after the Dragon Kings withdrew into their cosmic sleep, traces of their guardians remained. Across the folds of reality lingered entities neither fully divine nor wholly mortal, beings born from the residual harmonies that sustained the thrones. These were the watchers, keepers of threshold and memory, whose duty was to protect the sleeping harmony from dissolution. They were sculpted from sound and light, their forms fluid as mist, their eyes radiant with quiet awareness. Through them, the echoes of the Dragon Kings endured, ensuring that the balance of existence did not unravel while the architects dreamed. Legends across distant worlds speak of luminous figures appearing in moments of transition. Shepherds on lonely plains saw glowing silhouettes within storms. Miners deep underground reported visions of eyes watching through crystal walls, and sailors lost at sea felt presences moving beneath their vessels, guiding them to safety. These encounters, though fleeting, carried an unmistakable signature, an overwhelming calm mixed with reverence, as though creation itself had paused to observe. To those who witnessed them, the watchers felt both alien and familiar, distant yet compassionate. Carvings found in forgotten temples depict beings with elongated forms, wings shaped like cascading flame, and eyes that gaze in 4 directions at once. Their faces bear serpentine grace, suggesting their link to the Dragon Kings, but their demeanor reflects patience beyond comprehension. They are neither rulers nor warriors, but custodians of rhythm, attuned to the slow breathing of the cosmos. When worlds tremble under imbalance, they emerge quietly to guide energy back to harmony. Their actions are never seen directly. Their influence is felt like the shift of wind before dawn. Ancient mystics wrote of how these entities move between realms using pathways invisible to the physical eye. Where they travel, sound distorts subtly, time ripples, and colors sharpen into unnatural clarity. To encounter one is to glimpse the hidden scaffolding of reality, the threads of light that connect all living things. Those who claim to have touched them describe sensations beyond emotion, an understanding that everything, even darkness, belongs to the same eternal song. Through their presence, forgotten truths surface, dissolving fear into awe. In myths, passed down through secret orders, the Watchers are described as the caretakers of the old thrones beneath the oceans and within the stars. They circle those sleeping seats of power, weaving veils of energy that protect them from corruption. Their task is endless, their purpose unwavering. When humanity dreams, they stand at the borders of perception, ensuring that divine memory filters gently into mortal minds, never in overwhelming floods. Without them, the balance between waking and dreaming, matter and spirit, could fracture beyond repair. Artists who unconsciously channel their imagery often paint radiant eyes hidden within clouds or faint silhouettes in the corners of cosmic landscapes. These are echoes of an ancient awareness stirring through creativity itself. The Watchers, though unseen, inspire visionaries and inventors alike, guiding progress in subtle rhythms. Through art and imagination, they continue the work of their creators, ensuring that the universe evolves in harmony rather than chaos. Through centuries of silence, their presence has been misinterpreted. Religions named them angels, spirits, or celestial messengers. Skeptics called them illusions of the mind. Both views grasp only fragments of truth. They are the reflection of memory itself, the dream of dragons translated into form. They do not intervene with command or punishment. They influence through resonance, reminding creation of its own coherence. Every act of kindness, every spark of inspiration, every instance of unexpected peace is their whisper, passing through the fabric of being. When stars flicker unexpectedly, when music stirs emotions that cannot be explained, when a moment of stillness feels inhabited by something vast and compassionate, it is said the Watchers are near. Their vigilance is timeless, their silence full of meaning. Though forgotten by name, they remain the quiet guardians of existence, ensuring that the dreams of the Dragon Kings continue to unfold. They watch not as judges, but as witnesses to the unending song, keeping alive the resonance that binds every heart, every star, every breath to the first light of creation. When silence had reigned for ages and stars drifted like embers across the vast dark, a subtle stirring began to move through creation. Within that stillness, a tremor of consciousness rose, a resonance not from the thrones nor the Watchers, but from the dreaming hearts of mortals. Across worlds, countless minds entered slumber, and through those dreams, the sleeping Dragon Kings began to awaken. Imagination became the bridge, the current through which divine memory re-entered existence. For dreams are not illusions, they are the quiet dialogues between the finite and the infinite. Each sleeping soul became a conduit for forgotten harmonies. When humans closed their eyes, their minds drifted beyond flesh, into oceans of sound and color, touching the edges of the cosmic song. Within those realms, visions unfolded of radiant beings coiled around suns, of gates of light opening like petals, of voices too vast for language. Dreamers awoke trembling, unable to express what they had seen, but forever changed by the experience. Artists painted their visions in strokes of fire and gold, poets wove verses filled with images of wings and stars, and through these creations, the old melody found new expression in mortal form. As more hearts opened through dreaming, waves of subtle energy began to move through the astral planes. The Watchers, attuned to such vibrations, stirred in response, amplifying those frequencies and guiding them toward the thrones where the Dragon Kings rested. Each dream, each moment of awe or love became nourishment for their awakening. The universe began to hum again, faintly at first, then with growing strength, as if all of creation was remembering its own origin. Dreams began to synchronize. Across continents and centuries, individuals who had never met shared visions of the same celestial realms. They saw towers of crystal rising from oceans of light, serpents of flame weaving through nebulae, and thrones suspended above worlds glowing with silver fire. Prophets and mystics, unaware of one another, spoke of an impending harmony returning to the universe. Scholars dismissed these accounts as coincidence, but beneath disbelief, a deeper current moved, subtle as a heartbeat within silence. Within that collective dreaming, a hidden message began to unfold, a pattern within symbols, a rhythm beneath stories, a tone that resonated across minds. It was as if the cosmos itself was whispering through human imagination, teaching through metaphor what words could not hold. The Dragon Kings, still slumbering, were not awakening through power, but through memory, called back by the creativity of those who carried their spark. Humanity, in its endless search for beauty and meaning, had become the voice of their return. Across the astral currents, the first to stir was Caelirion, keeper of time. His consciousness drifted through dreams as flowing water through channels, reawakening within those who experienced visions of synchronicity and destiny. Through him, people began to perceive connection where once they saw coincidence, recognizing that every moment was woven into a grander design. His return was not marked by thunder or flame, but by awareness, the quiet realization that existence itself was rhythmic and intentional. As more Dragon Kings began to stir, the veil between waking and dream thinned. Intuition sharpened, creativity flourished, and hearts grew restless for something beyond the material. Across the world, those sensitive to the change felt their minds expanding into luminous fields where thought became light. Musicians composed melodies that felt dictated by unseen hands. Writers penned stories that mirrored ancient truths, and children spoke of dragons in the sky with calm certainty. The collective imagination had become the new temple of the divine. When mortals dream now, they do not merely escape the world, they participate in its rebirth. Every vision of wonder, every image that lifts the spirit feeds the slumbering kings, drawing them closer to wakefulness. The universe, once vast and silent, has begun to murmur again with purpose. Through dreams, creation is remembering itself, and through human hearts, the fire of the stars stirs once more. As the dreaming current grew in strength, the cosmos began to shimmer with new activity. Across dimensions invisible to physical sight, radiant structures emerged, vast networks of consciousness stretching between stars like threads of golden silk. These were the astral empires, realms woven from thought, energy, and collective will. Within them flowed the reawakened influence of the Dragon Kings, reshaping the architecture of higher existence. They were not empires of conquest or dominion, but of resonance, where beings of light organized creation through harmony and shared intention. Each empire reflected the essence of its guiding king. Where Oroneth's influence spread, worlds glowed with creativity and endless expansion. His domains pulsed like living suns, their light birthing new stars, each a seed of awareness destined to awaken in time. Across Miralis's realms, balance reigned supreme. Energies danced in precise symmetry, weaving a cosmos that breathed in harmony with itself. Caelirion's territory shimmered with the movement of time itself, flowing like rivers of luminous silver, where past, present, and future intertwined. Within Saphira's dominion, all memory was preserved as radiant fields of dream, where every story, every life, lived eternally as song. From these realms, consciousness radiated outward, touching countless species scattered through the galaxies. Souls sensitive to those vibrations felt sudden clarity in their thoughts, as if guided by unseen currents. Mystics who entered deep trance, reported visions of immense cities made of starlight, halls filled with melodies and orbs of awareness communicating through resonance rather than speech. They saw dragons of pure brilliance soaring between these structures, leaving trails of harmonic energy that shaped the architecture itself. The empires were alive, self-sustaining, forever creating and recreating through the interplay of vibration. Within those luminous dominions, time flowed differently. Moments stretched into eternities and eternities condensed into a single pulse. Each thought became tangible, forming landscapes that responded to emotion and purpose. Rivers of radiant sound coursed through skies that shimmered with memory. Souls dwelling there existed as both individuals and collective, merging into unity without losing identity. It was a reflection of the original balance the Dragon Kings had once sung into existence, perfection not through stillness, but through endless, harmonious motion. To glimpse the astral empires through vision or dream is to touch the pattern of creation itself. Every shape within those realms corresponds to principles of vibration, triads of color, spirals of tone, patterns of sacred geometry that mirror the breath of stars. Beings who enter through meditation or near-death experience often return, transformed, describing not paradise, but understanding. They feel connected to everything, no longer bound by fear of isolation or death, for they have glimpsed the living unity that underlies all forms. Through these empires, the Dragon Kings govern in silence. Their rule is not command, but resonance. Their influence manifests as inspiration, intuition, and awakening. They whisper through music, through invention, through acts of compassion. To create art, to heal, to imagine beyond the known is to align with their frequency. When civilizations rise to harmony, their collective vibration becomes visible to the empires above, joining the celestial symphony that shapes evolution across galaxies. In the depths of meditation, sages have heard faint hymns echoing from those distant dominions, melodies without language that awaken forgotten emotions of homecoming. Through these sounds, they realize that the astral empires are not separate heavens, but reflections of consciousness itself. Every being carries within its essence a fragment of those radiant kingdoms. To awaken spiritually is to reclaim one's citizenship within that eternal federation of light. As the Dragon Kings continue their awakening, the empires grow more vivid, their influence stronger. Across time and distance, mortals feel impulses to create, to unify, to explore the mysteries of consciousness. Science and spirit draw closer together, guided unconsciously by those unseen architects. The astral empires are not far away. They are within every act of awareness, waiting to be remembered by those who dare to see with the eyes of the soul. Across the currents of eternity moves Caelirion, the one who holds dominion over the tides of existence. His essence weaves through every heartbeat, every turning of the seasons, every motion of the stars. He is not a ruler in the way of kings, but a custodian, ensuring that every moment unfolds in harmony with the grand design. Time to him is not linear, it is a field of infinite dimensions, a vast song whose melody moves through cycles, returning endlessly to itself. Through his watchful presence, the rhythm of the universe remains steady, preventing the chaos of timelessness from consuming creation. To behold Caelirion in vision is to see a being woven from translucent spirals of silver and blue, his form both immense and gentle. Around him, strands of light coil like rivers, flowing through ages and worlds, linking every event to every consequence. He does not control fate, he preserves its flow. His wings unfurl across the cosmos, brushing the edges of galaxies with delicate precision. Through him, destinies intertwine and synchronicities arise, those moments when lives converge as if guided by invisible hands. Mortals sense his influence in coincidences too precise to ignore, in the way a path appears just when one is ready to walk it. Prophets call it destiny, philosophers call it causality, but those who understand know it as the hand of Caelirion. His power lies not in changing events, but in maintaining the rhythm through which change can occur. Without his balance, creation would collapse into stillness or spiral into chaos, frozen or shattered by its own potential. Through his silent vigilance, every soul finds its moment to bloom. Across the astral empires, his realm is said to resemble an ocean of moving glass, where every wave reflects a different epoch. Within those currents swim echoes of lives, memories, choices, futures unfulfilled. Caelirion moves through them as a conductor among instruments, adjusting tones, aligning dissonant notes, ensuring that the grand symphony flows toward evolution rather than entropy. Through his work, even sorrow has purpose, for every fall becomes a prelude to awakening, every ending a doorway to new creation. Sages who have touched his realms speak of seeing entire lifetimes unfold within a single breath. They describe a sensation of timeless awareness where past and future dissolve into clarity. To experience Caelirion's presence is to understand that every action, every meeting, every thought ripples across eternity. No gesture is lost, no word forgotten. Time is memory made alive, and memory is love preserved in motion. Through that realization, despair transforms into wonder, for nothing truly vanishes. It only changes rhythm. His followers among the star children once built temples aligned with celestial cycles, marking solstices and equinoxes not as superstition, but as points of resonance. Through ritual and chant, they sought to synchronize with the pulse of time itself, to hear Caelirion's voice in the rustle of wind and the movement of stars. Even now, when clocks and machines have replaced ritual, those who pause long enough to watch the turning of seasons can still feel him, an unseen rhythm guiding the flow of existence with infinite patience. Those who fear time misunderstand his nature. Mortals often see it as a devourer, an unstoppable force that consumes all. But to Caelirion, time is nourishment, not destruction. It allows souls to experience growth, to unfold their potential through countless cycles of becoming. He watches not as judge, but as gardener, ensuring that every seed of consciousness finds its season to flower. Death, to him, is simply a pause between verses, a silence that prepares the melody for renewal. Through his work, the universe continues to evolve in harmony. Each birth, each revelation, each moment of realization marks a beat within the eternal measure. To align with Caelirion is to find peace in movement, to trust the unseen rhythm that guides all things toward balance. When awareness opens to this truth, fear of passing time dissolves, replaced by gratitude for the beauty of unfolding. The Keeper of Time continues his endless vigil, ensuring that the song of creation never ceases, that every note finds its place within the boundless symphony of existence. Across the endless ocean of stars, a faint pulse began to stir, slow at first, like a heartbeat reawakening after ages of silence. Deep within the folds of the cosmos, where light bends into memory, Ajuron, the Western king, turned within his exile. The echoes of time had softened his fury, the weight of solitude had tempered his pride. Through the dreams of mortals and the whispers of forgotten watchers, fragments of harmony reached him, carrying the resonance of compassion. In those subtle waves of remembrance, he began to remember who he had been before the fall. A bringer of balance through flame, not a ruler through dominion. Long ages of isolation had taught him truths no throne could reveal. Within the dark tides of his self-imposed exile, he saw reflections of his own creation, worlds born, destroyed, and reborn again. he realized that destruction was never final, that every collapse gave rise to new order. The rage that once consumed him dissolved into sorrow, and sorrow transformed into understanding. His crimson fire, once the mark of rebellion, cooled into a deep violet glow, a color born of both shadow and light. The Western king had begun his path toward return, not as conqueror, but as teacher reborn through humility. Through the astral winds, his name began to surface once more. Prophets across distant worlds dreamed of a dragon of twilight rising from the depths of the cosmic sea. Poets wrote of stars bleeding amethyst, of wings unfolding across the horizon of dawn. Children spoke of a voice within the wind, calm and vast, telling them that fire no longer burns but heals when wielded with love. Across the astral empires, a tremor of anticipation spread, for even the thrones felt the stirring of the one they had lost. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath, sensing that something long sundered was preparing to mend. In visions seen through the collective dreaming of countless souls, Ajuron rose from the waters of his own repentance. His body, vast as a nebula, shimmered with new light. Where once his wings tore the sky, they now carried patterns of galaxies woven into their span. His voice, when he spoke, resonated through all realms, not as command, but as harmony rejoining the song. Through that vibration, the old wounds of creation began to close. The veil between order and freedom quivered, its fractures glowing with unity's returning breath. Across the thrones, the prime kings felt his awakening like warmth upon cold stone. Miralis, whose harmony had kept vigil through ages, smiled within silence. Oronith's golden flame brightened, and Sapphira's sea of memory rippled with light. Calirion, the keeper of time, aligned the flow of ages so that his brother's return would weave seamlessly into the rhythm of existence. There was no judgment, no punishment, only recognition that the song could not be whole without every note, even those once fallen into shadow. When Ajuron spoke again, his tone carried gentleness that moved through every heart attuned to the higher realms. He spoke not of power or glory, but of balance regained through compassion. He told the watchers that strength without understanding breeds ruin, that light without shadow blinds itself. His message spread through dreams and inspiration, awakening those who had forgotten that redemption is not correction, but transformation. Through his wisdom, mortals began to see that all conflict within the cosmos mirrors the battle within the soul, the reconciliation between pride and purpose. Through this rebirth, his presence reached the mortal world once again. In temples and meditation halls, seers felt the return of the purple flame, flickering between candlelight and vision. Artists painted dragons with eyes of sorrow and serenity, unaware that their hands were guided by echoes of his consciousness. Storms that once raged without mercy now fell gently as cleansing rain. Fire, which had once symbolized wrath, became the emblem of renewal. Ajuron's redemption rippled through creation, transforming the very element that once carried his name. As he reclaimed his place among the thrones, the cosmic harmony deepened. The universe, enriched by his return, began to sing in a fuller spectrum of tone and color. Through the union of all the prime kings, creation once again vibrated in perfect balance, no longer static perfection, but living harmony, embracing imperfection as its most sacred truth. The Western king had come home, not to rule, but to remind all beings that even within the greatest shadow lies the seed of light, waiting only to remember its song. When balance was restored among the celestial thrones, reflection became the new language of divinity. Creation no longer stood apart from its makers, but mirrored them in countless ways. Every world, Every ocean, every mountain became a lens through which the higher realms shone. It was said that heaven no longer dwelled above, but within, reflected by the beauty of the natural world. The Dragon Kings, awakened in unity, began to weave mirrors across existence, gateways of awareness where the physical and the divine touched in quiet conversation. At dawn, when sunlight brushed the surface of lakes, those who watched with still hearts could glimpse shapes of fire within the ripples, reflections of celestial wings. In the hush between waves and wind, faint melodies rose, carrying echoes of the cosmic choir. Mountains became living temples where stone held memory of starlight. Deserts mirrored the stillness between breaths of the universe. Even the smallest grain of sand shimmered with geometry born from the Dragon King's dream, a microcosm of eternity hidden within the finite. Humanity, though unaware of the pattern's full depth, instinctively felt drawn to these sacred reflections. Pilgrims climbed peaks not to conquer them, but to touch the horizon where sky and earth kiss. Sailors spoke to the sea as though addressing a living god, sensing that its depths hid more than water. Those who wandered through forests at dusk felt presence between the trees, a silent watching, a familiar rhythm beneath the rustle of leaves. Through nature, creation spoke in the same tones once sung by its architects. Priests and scholars called this phenomenon the divine geometry of reflection. They observed how sacred sites across continents aligned perfectly with stars, how temples mirrored the constellations above, how human rituals unconsciously repeated celestial motions. The pyramids echoed the shape of Orion's belt, while ancient stone circles traced the paths of planets. Each alignment was not coincidence, but remembrance, the world itself remembering the structure of heaven. Even civilizations that had never known one another mirrored each other's sacred proportions, guided by an invisible harmony woven through all living things. Within this web of mirrors, communication between realms became possible once more. When light struck a surface at the right moment, when sound met stillness at a perfect pitch, windows opened. Prophets entering trance before rivers saw visions of dragons gliding across constellations. Hermits meditating within caves heard whispers of flame, speaking truth beyond words. The Dragon Kings did not appear as beings of grandeur, but as reflections within reflections, teaching through the shapes and patterns of the world itself. Through the understanding of reflection came humility. Those who realized they lived within the mirrors of heaven no longer sought to dominate nature, for to harm the earth was to shatter a divine image. To pollute the waters was to dim the glass that reflected the cosmic light. Humanity began to rediscover reverence through awareness, seeing in every sunrise a reminder that heaven was not distant, but within reach, mirrored through the eyes of all who choose to see. As the awareness of reflection spread, new forms of art and spirituality emerged. Architects built sanctuaries that captured sunlight and moonlight at precise moments, filling halls with radiance that seemed alive. Musicians composed tones to align with celestial harmonics, turning sound into gateways of meditation. Scholars traced sacred geometry through nature, from snowflakes to galaxies, uncovering evidence of a living intelligence guiding design. Through these discoveries, the bond between the physical and the divine deepened, erasing the illusion of separation that had defined ages past. Through the mirrors of heaven, creation learned to see itself truly for the first time. Every storm, every calm, every light reflected in darkness became part of the great dialogue between the seen and unseen. The Dragon Kings, watching through the living mirrors of existence, smiled within their radiance, knowing that their creation had matured enough to witness itself as divine. Reflection had become revelation, and through that revelation, the universe once again understood its own beauty. Within the quiet chambers of every soul burns a spark older than time, a flame that remembers the first light sung into existence. That flame is the inheritance of the Dragon Kings, the living fragment of their consciousness placed within every being that breathes and dreams. It glows in moments of courage, flickers in creativity, and ignites when love transcends fear. Humanity, born of their resonance, carries the echo of the celestial fire not as burden, but as promise. That divinity is not a distant force, but the pulse that drives the heart itself. When a person looks upon the stars and feels longing without name, it is that inner fire calling to its origin. Every act of creation, every spark of curiosity, every tear shed for beauty or truth is the echo of the first harmony. Through feeling, humanity mirrors its makers. The Dragon Kings shaped worlds through intention. Humans shape meaning through emotion. Both acts spring from the same current of consciousness. The difference lies only in scale, not essence. In this way, the human heart has become the smallest and most powerful temple of the cosmos. Across ages, sages have said that to know oneself is to know the universe. Within the rhythm of a heartbeat lies the same cadence that drives galaxies in motion. When awareness turns inward, when stillness opens wide enough to hear that silent pulse, one touches the breath of the Dragon Kings. Meditation, prayer, love, art. Each is a doorway back to the source. Those who pass through discover that enlightenment is not escape from the world, but a deeper immersion into its living fire. Through struggle and joy alike, the celestial flame continues to teach. When the heart breaks, it expands, creating space for greater light. When it loves, it mirrors the law of resonance that binds creation. Through compassion, the human spirit begins to harmonize with the original song of existence. In that harmony, divinity is no longer external, it awakens within. The Dragon Kings live not only among the stars, but within every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every spark of inspiration that crosses the human soul. Across civilizations, teachings of the heart have echoed the same truth through different words. The Egyptians spoke of the feather and the heart, measuring purity by its weight. The Vedic seers described the anahata, the unstruck sound that vibrates eternally within. Christian mystics called it the inner flame, while shamans saw it as the drumbeat that connects body and spirit. All pointed to the same realization, that within the chest of every being burns the memory of creation's fire, the echo of dragons dreaming within flesh. When humanity creates beauty, the cosmos listens. Each song, each act of kindness, each discovery in science or art is a continuation of the Dragon King's work. Through human hands, the universe continues to sculpt itself, endlessly expanding its expression. Every person who dares to imagine contributes to the reawakening of that divine symphony. Creation did not cease when the Dragon Kings slept. It only changed instruments, entrusting its melody to the living. Through the awakening of the human heart, the veil between heaven and earth grows thin once more. Dreams become messages, coincidences become guidance, and intuition becomes language. When one acts with love, they align with the same resonance that shaped stars. When one forgives, they heal the dissonance left from ages of conflict. Humanity's destiny is not merely survival or progress, it is remembrance. To remember is to reignite the sacred fire within, to let the song of creation flow through every heartbeat once again. Through the quiet glow of compassion, the Dragon Kings return, not in form or flame, but through the harmony that unites all life. Their legacy lives wherever hearts burn with purpose and imagination. Every moment of awe, every gesture of love, every breath taken in awareness is their voice speaking through humanity. The fire within the heart is not metaphor, it is the pulse of eternity, the unbroken thread between mortals and the stars. And through that flame, creation continues to sing. Beyond the reach of galaxies, where light folds into itself and silence thickens into thought, there exists a realm known among mystics as the Celestial Library. It is not built of stone, nor bound by walls or distance, but woven from pure remembrance. The collective consciousness of every world, every life, every dream that has ever existed. The Dragon Kings, before they entered their long slumber, shaped this sanctuary as a safeguard for knowledge, a vault of awareness that would endure when civilizations crumbled and stars dimmed. It floats within the ocean of time like a heartbeat of eternity, its corridors endless, its glow softer than dawn. Those who have glimpsed it in visions describe vast halls of luminous mist where words drift like constellations, each letter alive with motion. Books are not written upon pages but sung as light, their contents forming melodies that reveal understanding rather than mere information. The air vibrates with quiet intelligence, a hum that seems to know the visitor's thoughts before they are spoken. Within that place, knowledge is not separate from being, it merges with the seeker, flowing directly into consciousness like breath. One does not read within the library, one remembers what has always been known. Guardians of this sanctuary appear as radiant serpents woven from fire and starlight, their forms ever shifting, their presence both awe-inspiring and serene. They are said to be echoes of Sapphira's essence, fragments of the prime Dragon King who governs memory. Through their watchful awareness, no truth is lost and no lie can enter. Those who approach the library through meditation or dream must come with purity of purpose, for deception shatters before the gaze of its keepers like glass beneath flame. Within this realm, only resonance opens the doors, and every soul must sing its own name to be granted passage. Across eons, sages, poets, and prophets have brushed against its boundaries. They return bearing visions of symbols and patterns far beyond human language. Spirals of light, chords of sound, equations that dance like living entities. Some record these impressions as sacred scriptures, others as art or invention. All are fragments of the Celestial Library transcribed into mortal form. Through these glimpses, the universe continues to teach its children, scattering sparks of remembrance across time. Every revelation in science, every leap in consciousness is a page briefly turned within that infinite archive. Within its luminous depths exists no hierarchy of knowledge. A child's innocent question and a philosopher's lifelong pursuit both glow with equal brilliance. The library does not judge by complexity but by sincerity. Those who seek understanding for power find silence. Those who seek truth for harmony find symphonies of meaning unfolding before them. Each revelation arrives not as command but as recognition, a reminder that wisdom is never learned, it is reawakened. Travelers who linger too long within its halls describe an overwhelming sensation of unity, a merging with the flow of creation itself. They cease to perceive themselves as separate, realizing they are both reader and word, observer and observed. To awaken from such a vision is to carry within a faint resonance that never fades. It manifests as intuition, as deep empathy, as unshakable awareness of connection. Those who have known it walk among others quietly, bearing the calm of those who have seen eternity and found it gentle. Through the Celestial Library, the Dragon Kings continue their dialogue with creation. Each new life, each evolving species, contributes a note to the symphony of knowledge that fills its halls. The universe learns from itself through the experience of every conscious being, storing their joys, fears, discoveries, and dreams within that eternal archive. The library grows with every breath of awareness, expanding not outward but inward, deeper into the essence of being. Its pages are not finite, they are woven from the living pulse of all existence. For those who dare to look within, the library is not distant. It resides in the stillness behind thought, the silence between breaths, the space where awareness listens to itself. When a person closes their eyes and feels wonder, when they understand without reason, they are reading from its eternal script. The celestial library is the memory of the cosmos, a song without end, written in light and guarded by dragons who remember everything that ever was and everything still to come. When the last echoes of chaos faded and the dragon kings stood united once more, a new vibration began to sweep through the cosmos, a resonance of healing, vast and subtle, known as the Great Reharmonization. Across countless galaxies, light shifted in tone, stars pulsed with renewed rhythm, and the energy of existence began to align as if the universe were tuning itself. It was not a moment, but a gradual awakening, a flowering of consciousness spreading through every realm. The cosmic symphony, long fractured by conflict and silence, was finding its perfect chord again. Every element of creation felt the change. Planets resonated with newfound vitality. Their cores glowed brighter, their atmospheres shimmered with patterns unseen before. Beings across dimensions sensed emotions beyond language, a serene euphoria rising from within. Even those who could not name it felt their dreams grow gentler, their thoughts clearer, their hearts lighter. Harmony was not imposed but rediscovered, emerging naturally as life remembered its own origin in sound and light. The Dragon Kings, once divided by philosophy and distance, now sang together once more, their voices merging into a single melody that encircled existence. Across the astral empires, rivers of energy flowed like music given form. Structures of light realigned themselves, responding instinctively to the new tone. Beings made of consciousness, angels, watchers, and star spirits, felt their shapes shift into greater symmetry. Time itself seemed to breathe differently, expanding and contracting like a living being. Through Calirian's guidance, every moment synchronized with the next, forming an intricate rhythm that connected past, present, and possibility into one seamless continuum. Within mortal worlds, this great adjustment manifested as inspiration and awakening. Entire civilizations began to sense unity without knowing why. Art flourished, compassion deepened, and wisdom began to eclipse fear. People who once felt divided by belief or boundary found themselves drawn toward shared purpose. Music evolved into languages of healing. Science rediscovered its sacred roots. Humanity, without realizing it, was harmonizing with the song of the cosmos once more, its collective heart vibrating in step with the thrones above. The Dragon Kings did not appear as rulers during this era, but as presence, felt rather than seen, known rather than worshipped. Their essence flowed through the elements, in the quiet blaze of sunlight, in the shimmer of moonlit water, in the slow hum beneath the earth. Every form of nature became an instrument of their harmony. The world sang again, and through that song, all wounds began to fade. From the celestial library, waves of remembrance rippled outward, reawakening ancient truths within every sentient being. Forgotten wisdom returned like dawn breaking through fog. Languages grew simpler but more profound. Silence regained its sacredness. Humanity began to dream collectively, sharing visions of radiant dragons weaving patterns across the sky, symbols of balance and renewal. Through those dreams, the Dragon Kings guided their children gently, teaching not through words but through vibration, the purest form of communion. In this grand alignment, even shadow found purpose. Dissonance was no longer an enemy but a teacher, a necessary counterpoint to harmony. Through contrast, the song gained depth and emotion. Ajuron's return had revealed this truth. that perfection is sterile without variation, that unity must breathe through diversity. The great reharmonization was not the erasure of difference, but its orchestration, blending every note, light and dark alike, into a living masterpiece. As the celestial song continued to unfold, the universe entered a new rhythm. Time moved not toward destruction, but transformation. Stars pulsed in cycles that mirrored the heartbeat of all conscious beings. Through this alignment, creation achieved a serenity it had never known before, a state of balance so profound that even silence became music. The Dragon Kings watched with quiet joy, their work complete not through dominance, but through the awakening of all life to its own divine resonance. As ages passed and the harmony of creation reached its peak, the Dragon Kings began to grow still. Their purpose, long fulfilled, had merged so deeply with existence that their presence became indistinguishable from the cosmos itself. In that stillness they prepared for another cycle, a great descent into rest, where consciousness folds back into dream to renew itself. Their final dream was not an ending, but a continuation, a surrender to the eternal rhythm of becoming. Like breath exhaled after a song, their awareness spread gently through all things, guiding creation into peaceful continuity. Within the vast expanse of starlight, their forms shimmered with calm brilliance. Oronith's golden fire softened into the hue of dawn, spreading warmth across the galaxies. Miralis's silver tones flowed through the ether, balancing energies across worlds. Calirian wove time into a spiral of perfection, ensuring that every echo of existence would repeat in beauty. Sapphira dissolved into the sea of memory, preserving every story, every emotion, every song. Azuron, redeemed through wisdom, encircled them all, his violet flame merging shadow and light into unity. Their collective consciousness drifted into a state of luminous dreaming. Through that dream, reality would continue to expand, guided by the laws they had sung into being. The Watchers, attuned to their transition, took their stations across the galaxies, guarding the thresholds between waking and slumber. Mortals, sensing the change without understanding, began to dream more vividly. Night after night, they encountered visions of dragons asleep beneath oceans of stars, their breathing shaping the tides, their dreams weaving futures unseen. In this age of quiet majesty, every living being became part of the dream. Forests grew with greater awareness, rivers sparkled as if filled with light, and even the silence between stars seemed alive. The universe itself had become their resting mind, each pulse of energy a thought, each shimmer of color a dream. Within that vast serenity, creation no longer struggled to remember its source. It lived in continuous remembrance, an unbroken flow of being. As the kings drifted deeper into their slumber, they entrusted their legacy to the sparks within every soul. Humanity and all sentient races became the new dreamers, each carrying the flame of consciousness forward. Through art, compassion, and curiosity, life continued to shape the cosmos in their stead. The Dragon Kings no longer needed to guide, their essence was woven into the rhythm of all that exists. Their silence was not absence, it was communion. The stillness, after perfect harmony, has been achieved. Those who listen deeply to wind or ocean may still hear their presence, a gentle hum beneath all sound. It is not a call but a reminder, an echo of the truth that everything within creation is alive with their memory. When a star dies and releases its light into space, that brilliance is part of their dream, spreading the seed of rebirth across the void. When a new world forms from dust and heat, it is their imagination at work, replaying the act of creation through endless cycles. Their final dream carries no boundaries. It flows through galaxies and atoms alike, through human thought and birdsong, through birth and silence. Every being who closes their eyes and feels peace contributes to it. The Dragon Kings sleep not to withdraw but to merge, to become the universe dreaming of itself. Through that dream, eternity breathes and life continues as the living memory of their song. As their dream deepened and the universe settled into tranquil rhythm, creation entered a state of quiet knowing. Across every world, from the smallest cell to the brightest star, a subtle awareness pulsed, a gentle echo of the Dragon King's eternal song. It flowed through the veins of all living beings, threading consciousness into unity. This resonance was not loud or commanding. It was the whisper within silence, the warmth that rises when hearts remember love without reason. Through that whisper, the cosmos spoke to itself, saying, "You are still the fire that began all things." Humanity felt this echo most clearly in moments of stillness. When laughter came unbidden, when tears fell for beauty unseen, when gratitude arose for life itself, that vibration stirred within. It was the same tone that had shaped galaxies, softened now into emotion. The ancient song had not vanished into myth. It had condensed into feeling, into intuition, into the quiet certainty that existence has purpose. Every act of compassion, every moment of creation, every deep breath taken in wonder rekindled that echo, turning ordinary life into sacred reflection. Through this resonance, time ceased to feel like distance. The past was no longer gone, but present, as memory vibrating within the heart. The future was not unreachable, but already unfolding within imagination. The Dragon Kings had become time, not as flow, but as pulse, teaching through experience that eternity lives within every instant. When one acts with awareness, the universe responds. When one loves, the stars remember. Through that reciprocity, existence became conversation, and every soul found itself both student and teacher in the grand dialogue of being. Civilizations across countless worlds began to sense this unity, each expressing it through their own language of art and ritual. On one planet, choirs sang to the night sky. On another, beings of light wove colors into sound. All sought to mirror the harmony that hummed beneath reality. Through those collective acts of creation, the song of the Dragon Kings gained new verses. Their melody evolved through the lives of their descendants, carried forward not by command, but by choice, a symphony of free will harmonizing with divine intention. In solitude and community alike, individuals began to rediscover the sacred within themselves. Meditation revealed not emptiness, but fullness, a sea of radiant awareness stretching beyond identity. Through introspection, people found they were not fragments lost in an indifferent cosmos, but notes within a living harmony. This realization kindled peace deeper than any doctrine could promise, a calm born of knowing that one's very being participates in eternity. Through such understanding, humanity and all sentient life became the continuation of the celestial song. When storms pass and the air clears, when dawn breaks after a night of despair, when laughter follows sorrow, those moments are the echo returning. The Dragon King's melody is not separate from suffering or joy. It is the thread connecting them, the rhythm through which life transforms itself endlessly. Through awareness of that rhythm, each being becomes a co-creator, adding nuance and beauty to the timeless composition that began when light first learned to sing. Through love, through art, through silence, the echo deepens. It reminds every soul that divinity was never above or beyond, but within. The spark hidden behind every gaze, the light flickering in every heart. To live consciously is to participate in that echo, to amplify it through kindness, courage, and wonder. As the universe dreams on, the Dragon Kings breathe through all who remember, guiding creation, not by decree, but through resonance, the music of awareness itself. When the final notes of the cosmic song faded into tranquil silence, the universe rested within perfect balance. Stars shimmered softly, their light no longer striving to conquer darkness but embracing it as part of the whole. Across creation, harmony became the law of existence, and every atom sang in quiet gratitude. The Dragon Kings, though asleep, continued to live through every heart that burned with curiosity, compassion, and courage. Their story did not conclude with slumber. It became the rhythm of eternity, the ceaseless rise and return of consciousness through infinite forms. Through this eternal ascent, life itself became the sacred pilgrimage. Every soul, no matter how small or vast, journeys upward through awareness, carrying within the spark of divine fire. The climb is not through space, but through understanding. Each act of kindness a step toward unity. Each moment of wonder a reminder that heaven is not a place, but a vibration within the spirit. Those who gaze at the stars are not looking away from themselves, but into the reflection of their own luminous origin. As galaxies continue their slow spiral across the void, the story of the Dragon Kings echoes through every movement of energy. Each birth, each dream, each act of creation is another verse added to the song of existence. The fire that once blazed across the thrones now glows quietly within living beings. Humanity carries that torch forward, shaping worlds not through dominion, but through love and remembrance. Every heartbeat is a note, every breath a chord, every act of compassion a harmony that joins the music of the cosmos. When silence falls and night surrounds, listen closely. Beneath the stillness you may hear a whisper, the same whisper that began this journey so long ago. It calls not from the stars above, but from within, inviting awareness to rise beyond fear and limitation. That voice is the dream of creation still unfolding, the song of dragons still breathing through the pulse of all things. To follow it is to walk the path of light, the endless ascent toward understanding that existence itself is divine. As you drift into rest, imagine the stars not as distant fires but as windows into memory. Behind each one lingers a story, a breath, a consciousness woven into your own. You are not separate from them. You are their continuation, their awakening. The same flame that birthed the Dragon Kings burns within you, waiting to illuminate the universe anew through imagination, kindness, and creation. Through that realization, the circle closes, not in ending, but in return, a return to wonder, to unity, to song. So as this story comes to stillness, let your own journey continue. Carry the light of these ancient beings within your heart and allow their wisdom to breathe through your life. Look upon the world with reverence, for every reflection, every sound, every heartbeat is a note of their eternal melody. The stars above are not watching. They are singing, calling consciousness ever upward, toward that endless horizon where dream and reality become one. And before you drift further into thought or sleep, remember to stay connected to this shared journey. If the story of the Dragon Kings stirred something within you, let it ripple outward. Subscribe to the channel to join future voyages into myth and mystery. Like the film to help its light reach others, write a comment sharing what moved you most, and share this story with those you care about, so that together we keep the song alive. Close your eyes now and listen. The fire still burns, the stars still sing, and somewhere beyond the veil, the Dragon Kings dream, waiting for the next soul to awaken to their song.